Welcome to today's episode of Turn It Off and On Again. Today we're going to be diving into one of the hottest topics in cybersecurity, the Essential Eight framework. Now, if you haven't heard of that framework before, it's a mostly Australian-focused framework, but it's been put out by the Australian Cybersecurity Centre, and it's a combination of about 8 different pillars, and a lot of them can be achieved using Microsoft Intune. So we're going to look at how Intune can help you achieve and manage these controls across your environment. And if you're running Microsoft 365 Business Premium or any of the enterprise SKUs, then this is going to be a must watch. So what is the Essential Eight? The Essential Eight is a set of 8 mitigation strategies, and it's designed to make it harder for adversaries to compromise systems in your organization. Think of it as a bit of a baseline for cyber resilience, and it's set around 3 maturity levels. Maturity level 1 is really looking for basic hygiene, basic security hygiene within your organization. The second level is intermediate resilience. And the third level is high resilience and hard to compromise. So our focus in this series is going to be how can Intune, Microsoft's endpoint management solution, map directly to these strategies, and how can you achieve maturity level 1, 2, and 3 compliance. So how does Intune play a role in the Essential 8? Under each of the 8 pillars, pretty much all of the configuration is done through Intune, with the obvious exception being multi-factor authentication, which you can actually do through Intune, surprisingly, because it has its own little conditional access area. So we will look at that. The only one that isn't really covered by the Essential 8 and through Intune is regular backups. So Intune doesn't back up data itself, but it can enforce compliance with OneDrive, known folder moves, etc. But you would most likely need to look at a third-party tool to do your backups. But the ones that Intune does manage is patching of applications. So Intune can automatically deploy patches for apps like Office, browsers, PDF readers, and security tools. Using the built-in application management within Intune, you can enforce patching of these applications within 2 weeks, even 48 hours for critical vulnerabilities. So that's a really useful function. Patching of operating systems. With Intune's update rings and now auto patch for business, which is now integrated into your business premium SKUs, you can control OS patch cadence. Critical updates can be pushed fast and quickly, while feature updates can be staged for testing. Application control. Intune integrates with WDAC, and you can whitelist approved apps and block unsigned or risky executables using app control for business. So this allows you to deploy either the XML method, which is where there's explicit applications called out or controls in place, or you can also deploy the ISG method, which means that you can actually use the Microsoft Information Security Graph and block applications that are of an unknown origin. So the ISG uses a known safe application and safe vendor to allow applications through. The other one you've got is restriction of administrative privilege. So through Intune policies and Azure AD role-based access control, you can limit local admin rights and enforce just-in-time access. So things like LAPS come into play here for your local device, and then you would use PIM for your admin accounts. Configuring of Office macros. Intune can push group policies that disable or restrict macros in Office files, and it reduces the risk of malicious scripts being able to be run on those devices. User application hardening. Policies can also disable features like Flash, Java, unnecessary plugins, and Intune makes this scalable across all endpoints. And user application hardening can also be enacted not just on the Microsoft stack, but across Chrome browsers, because all of these controls are built into Intune. Multi-factor authentication is primarily an Enter ID feature, but Intune does also ensure that devices comply with conditional access policies, as well as you being able to manage it from within that main platform. MFA can also tie in with device health if you have that require a compliant device ticked in those conditional access policies. So there's some challenges and trade-offs with the Essential 8. As you've seen through today, most of what we can do can be achieved through business premium licensing, which is what this tenant has that we were using today for these examples. But what you do find is a bit of a challenge in that Microsoft restricts some of the macro management to your enterprise SKU of licensing. So this means that you need to have an Office 365 for enterprise license to be able to push the macro rules and have them apply and actually lock down properly. Because when you deploy them on Business Premium, it will deploy the policy to lock it out and it'll turn off the macros, but then the users still have the control to be able to change it, and they can actually change those settings back from off to on. So enterprise licensing allows you to lock it down so that they can't then turn those things back on. So that's a bit of a trade-off there. The other one is also that with the vulnerability scanning aspect, you can get a little bit of visibility with your Business Premium SKU, but you're going to get a lot more visibility with your enterprise SKU with the Defender for Cloud Apps integration. So those are some trade-offs that you might find tricky to achieve with the Essential 8 if you're just using the Business Premium functionality. But also achieving maturity level 3 is really hard if you're just a normal sort of SMB type customer, unless you're working with defense or, tight government restrictions. Maturity level 3 is probably unlikely to want to be chased to achieve compliance with, because it really does strike that balance in a harsh way from a usability and security standpoint. So overall, the E8 is quite easy to achieve, especially at a maturity level 1 and maturity level 2. But we'll go into that in a little bit more detail over the next few weeks as we dive into each individual section. So there you have it. Intune is a bit of a powerhouse for managing the Essential 8, from patching to application control. It gives you the levers to enforce compliance at scale, and if you're aiming for any of the maturity levels in the ACSC's Essential 8, Intune should be at the center of your strategy to achieve them. So don't forget to like, subscribe, and drop a comment if you have any questions around what we've looked at today, as well as any questions that you have around Essential 8 or Intune integration. And hopefully we'll cover off some of those in the next coming weeks as we dive deeper into each individual control and how to set them up in Intune. Thank you very much for watching. Have a good day.